Hello and welcome back to STAAR History Blitz. My name is Mrs. B. Gonzalez, where we go over our 8th grade social studies curriculum. In today's video lesson, we're going to be talking about America's first government, the Articles of Confederation. Here are some key detailed points that we'll be reviewing in this video session. So let's think about this. America's in the middle of fighting the American Revolution, but they need to create a government. They don't have the time to sit down and really thoroughly think out what kind of government they want for their future nation. So they had to do something really quick. They knew what they didn't want, but they didn't have the time to think about what they actually expected, something that really was going to be long lasting. So what they created was a weak federal government. They did this because they were afraid of creating a whole new, British government all over again. So they created a weak federal government with a loose confederation of states. That means, yes, they were the United States of America, but every state had their own sovereignty, meaning their own power. So think about this. The states had more power than the federal government. It's like saying in a school system, the teachers have more power than your principal. That's the kind of government they created. Now, they did this because they feared a strong federal government. They were afraid of creating a king all over again. So let's continue with the Articles of Confederation. Now, what powers did the AOC, the Articles of Confederation, have? They had the power to declare war, make treaties, manage foreign affairs, and establish a postal system. Now think about it. Why did they give them this power? Well, they're in the middle of fighting a war. So they needed to be able to make treaties and deal with other foreign nations, like getting France to ally with them. So that's why they did give those powers during that time. What limitations did they have? When they created the Articles of Confederation, it had no P, no A, no C, C, T. All right? Say it with me. No P, no A, no C, C, T. This is going to help you remember the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. What does the P stand for? It had no president. What does that mean? No executive branch. And the executive branch enforces laws. So if the federal government made a law, there was no one to make sure that you were following it. There was no army, no P, no A. Well, the army is led by the commander-in-chief. The commander-in-chief is your president. Do we have a president? No. So why have an army, right? So we had no president, we had no army. The next one, we had no courts. We had no Supreme Court. Every state had their court system, but there was no Supreme Court. Why would you need a Supreme Court? Well, what happens if two states start to fight with each other? Who's going to resolve that issue? Nobody, right? The next one, the next C, no P, no A, no C, C. The second C stands for common currency. That means every state could coin or mint, that means make their own money. Think about that. What if I'm in New York and I want to buy tobacco from Virginia? Is my money going to work in Virginia? No. So that also became a problem for the nation's economy. And finally, no P, no A, no C, C, T. The T stands for taxes. The federal government could not tax the states. The states could tax their people, but not the federal government. Why is this a problem? Well, remember, war is expensive and it increases the national debt. We just finished fighting the American Revolution. We are in debt. We owe money to foreign countries like Spain and France. Are we going to ever be able to collect monies from our nation? No, because we have no P, no A, no C, C, T. The ability to levy taxes. Now, how is our government structured? How is the Articles of Confederation structured? Well, it only has one branch of government. We told you it had no executive, and because it has no Supreme Court, it has no judicial. We only have one branch, and that's the legislative branch. Legislative lawmakers. They have the ability to make laws. However, because every state retained its sovereignty. That means every state had its own power. They each had one vote in Congress. So 13 states, how many votes? 13. In order to change this government that we created, we needed 9 out of the 13 states to agree. And in order to change one of the laws, we needed all 13 out of 13. That's in order to amend the Constitution. So the point is, they never agreed. They could never agree to make a new law, and they could never agree to change the laws. So they're living under this new government that's falling apart and that's breaking up below them, and they can't fix it. These were the Articles of Confederation. Now, it's not all bad, okay? There's the good, there's the bad, and we're going to talk about the ugly. But what is the good? The good is the Northwest Ordinance. And I want you, if there's anything you remember when it comes to the Northwest Ordinance, look at that term. Memorize it in your head. If there's anything you remember, think about this. How to make new states. That's it. You look at that Northwest Ordinance, how to make new states. When America ended up signing the Treaty of Paris, we got all this new land. So the land between the Appalachian Mountains and the Mississippi River. One of the problems with all this new land was that states like Pennsylvania, Virginia, even New York wanted to just kind of stretch across and claim it and say it was theirs. Well, America realized, no, we need an orderly process to admit territories and make them into states. So how are we going to do that? All of this new Northwest territory needed to be structured and organized. You couldn't just fight and say it's mine. So what became those requirements, those provisions to admit a new territory into statehood? You needed 60,000 population, and of those 60,000, 5,000 needed to be white settlers, okay? And here's the last part. No slavery is allowed. So again, in order to make territories into states, that territory needed to have 60,000 people, 5,000 white, and no slavery is allowed. So this is the good of the Articles of Confederation. The bad, no P, no A, no CCT, and they can't even change the laws or fix it, right? One vote per state. Well, what was the ugly? The good, the bad, the ugly. Shays Rebellion. One of the things that ended up happening is Massachusetts farmers rebelled against Massachusetts because Massachusetts was taxing them and taking away their farms. And so what they ended up doing is rebelling. But there was no president and no army to stop this rebellion. When this happened, we had to ask our own people, we had to create a militia to stop the rebellion. This proved that the Articles of Confederation were too weak, and we needed to restructure our federal government. We needed to redo it. There was too many bad things with it. And remember, we did it really quickly, right? So we didn't have the time to really think out what kind of government we wanted for our new nation. So that concludes our video session on the Articles of Confederation. Our next one is going to be on the Constitutional Convention. What do we end up creating? What kind of government do we make that fixed the problems that we had under the Articles of Confederation? Thank you so much. My name is Mrs. B. Gonzalez, and we'll see you in the next one.